Hello, everyone. We're really happy to meet with MIRICRIS again. Boy, they have a lot of chuckles in my mind, and before I've actually started channeling them, they're chuckling away in my head already. And I think there's some good news coming up in and amongst the weeds, or the bad news, or is it bad news, or is it challenging news, whatever. But they're really insistent that there's an evolution afoot. So I'm really glad to talk to you all, and I'm glad to be with you, Lori.
Hi, welcome back,
Hi.
everybody. Hello to all of our audience, our subscribers. Nice to see you again.
And we have some pretty interesting questions to ask Mira Chris, don't we, today? Because it's a bit of a dog's breakfast out there. I know you really love dogs, but I think you'll appreciate that expression.
Yeah, exactly.
We are here and we appreciate it as well. And the truth is that there is not only a great deal of good news, but optimism. What we're really saying is optimism is very, very important because it's almost as if it's pushing through some of the boundaries of truth. You know how truth flows and expands as it goes. But sometimes what's working against truth is people's holding on to what it is they prefer it to be for whatever reason, whether it's money or whatever. We're saying to you that there is you were talking about the Strait of Gibraltar, and we're saying it's as if there's a strait that human consciousness is pushing through at this time. And through that passageway comes and we're reminding people very often that under a great deal of stress or loss or grief or whatever, there becomes new insight. There becomes a new way of thinking and a willingness to understand life with a new level of frequency. And we're saying to you that that's the optimistic approach of these days. And we hope that you understand that because it can, and I could see a number of you beings your hearts lift when you hear that because it feels at this time that there's no hope for humanity, the selfishness, the greed. And as this one's writing about the amniotic fluid of money, and a lot has to change for the world to escape this kind of suppression. And never before, generation after generation after generation on this planet have escaped entirely. However, we're saying that that potential is rising, rising with much more consciousness than ever before. What would you say, Lori?
Well, Miracris, you hello, and you sort of, I think, read our minds, of course, because we were going to talk about doing a health checkup on the planet, and you did exactly that. And we were going to ask, what is our scorecard for evolution?
The scorecard for evolution is it needs a lot more lighting, meaning sparks. You understand that? Human beings are sparks that need to be blown upon. You understand? And there, right now, the evolution is sort of stagnant because of fear. And so we're
Hmm.
saying that this is the time to build possibility in people's minds, to keep creating. And we say this is not just because you have to do one-on-one, but we're saying creating a wave of possibility and having it come through. This is why we like to do what we're doing, having it come through your media, having it come through written words, having it come through performances of all kinds and having people realize that the universes are always in a state of unfoldment, are they not? And we're seeing here a very powerful flow of new frequencies moving through your universe. And those frequencies, when think about the listeners here, when people are being touched by, whoa, what's this? This feels expansive and so on. It's true, it's real. And we're saying, as far as how many and what is the percentage, we can't even begin to guess that because in the middle of the changing atmospheric effects, people will either respond to it or not. However, we do say something very, very uplifting. You'll love this, Lori, is that most people who can perceive the dishevelment of high energies coming in at a difficult time, most people who can perceive that will be really delighted to think, oh my goodness, it's changing and I can change with it. And you'll find that the rate of evolution grows. However, we're warning you that there's some very difficult passages coming up, very difficult passages. And part of it, you can help, both of you and other people that you know can help a great deal to move people through these passages. We're using your imagery about the passage, the oceanic passages that we spoke of at the beginning. But you can help people through these tight narrows by and being enthusiastic and don't participate in the darker evidence of what's going on. The other thing is when people feel absolutely bleak, remind them over and over again that this is an amazing time of what we'll call it evolution. We'll call it the thrusting and pushing of consciousness to come through the minds and hearts of individuals. Um,
Okay.
Yes, and it's
Yes.
actually, it sounds, what is it? Does it sound difficult? Because it sounds like it's like struggling to get through. We're not seeing it like that. We're saying that if people can allow themselves to relax and enjoy or feel the reality of this kind of transformation going on, it will be much easier than you realize. So we see some very, very optimistic numbers, if you will, for what humanity is going to do over the next few years.
Hmm.
Very optimistic.
Fantastic. Wow. Well, yeah, we just have to get through this period, right?
Yeah, it's not just this period. These periods are going to keep coming up because you have to know this, and you know this already, but we'll tell you that many people who are striving for success and are in that flow of life, which is kind of greedy, will
Hmm.
resist, will resist the untethering or detethering of many human beings, that they can no longer hold them in their power. Do you understand that? So
Hmm.
there will be resistance and anger and mistrust.
Hmm.
And we see more people being sent to jails for no real reason at all, except for the
Hmm.
dominance of certain people. And if you'd like to get into that kind of question, we're willing to
I
do
do.
that.
I do. That's a great segue, MIRICRIS. Will there be any US citizens? I don't mean green card holders. I mean, will the Trump administration cross over into um, picking up US citizens?
Yes.
Will they be shipped to El Salvador?
Yes, but there is going to be such a strong, vehement
Hmm.
scream coming up from this country. And
Wow.
it's very important that that happen because without that, there's not enough, we call it vehemence, there's not enough strength in the resistance.
Right.
When it becomes really loud, watch for big changes, big changes. And there's going to be some violence that returns from, for example, El Salvador. For
Mm,
some reason, we see that from El Salvador, there is well, we already said it, some violence returning back because the conflict is impacting their whole country in a tremendous way. And the
wow.
whole thing is not logical. It's very, very punitive and quite draconian, as you know.
Yeah. Wow.
When I'm
Uh,
moving my hands this way because we're seeing some of the pressures amongst groups of people are just vicious. And when we do this, it's because the intention is to move the frequencies that are coming into the situation so that they can go through the narrows. We're going to keep using that image. You see, because if
Yeah.
they can get through and not get stuck by reaction, they will have room to transform. Do you understand that?
Mm. Hmm.
It's a very interesting time on planet Earth, and we suggest this might be the biggest transformational time the Earth has ever explored.
Wow.
Mhm,
Incredible.
mhm,
Well, funny enough, I want to give a shout out to the Evolutionary Heroes of the week, which is all the protesters who took to the streets on April 5th across the world. It was millions. I know, the media was like, oh, it's thousands, it's hundreds of thousands. It was millions.
mhm.
And the big
But
shout out.
also, too, can we say something else that the media has shown itself up to be a repressive organization as to how it handled all that?
Mhm, mhm,
And
mhm.
many people
But
have recognized that.
But MSNBC, Rachel Maddow is doing a hell of a job at covering it. She's made it her own personal mission to make
Mhm,
sure in her shows that this kind of coverage is happening. And just, hey, wonderful work, everybody.
mhm,
I mean, this is how it's got to go. There's another organized march coming.
mhm.
And I forget, is it the 16th, 19th, something like that. Anyways, can we switch gears also? I had a hit about, um,
We want to interrupt.
yes,
We
please.
have a dear friend who listens to MSNBC, and she knew nothing about all the protests. And we finally chatting about it realized that that's because Rachel Maddow and specific people are fomenting that, but it isn't all across the board. So people need to pay attention and flick those dials and find
Yes.
the credible beings.
Hmm. Hmm. That's true.
And
And now we are getting coverage on ABC about it and some on CBS. I mean, it is happening
and
slowly, but
we encourage listeners to remember that there is a plan, and not too many people know about things, and they can do something about that.
yes. So let me jump to a very weird thing. I had a very strange impression. We don't often talk about Melania Trump, prefer not to, but because I had a funny hit that I want to talk to MIRICRIS about this. And she's in Switzerland currently.
Mhm.
Does she have an arrangement to move money abroad?
Yes, indeed. She
You can
has
call
quite an interesting interaction that's global, from Russia
Mhm.
to several of the Eastern European niches for authoritarianism. And well, we see three strong ones in the US.
shows she's operating, and I don't think many of us have ever spoken about this.
Mm.
She's
She's a
operating
spy
as
and an operator, yes.
yes, as an attaché, but also for is she embezzling and moving money from what the Trump administration and Elon Musk is doing? Is she skimming and moving money out and through?
Yes. And it's supporting the Russians. Um, she's not just hoarding it herself. She's a very strong activist on behalf of that of the Russian Empire, if you will.
Wow. So this is an arrangement her and Donald have that she quietly
Yes.
operates in the background.
Hmm. And he would never admit it, you know. This is why they were together at all.
Yes. Wow.
Because really and truly, they don't like each other.
Well, let me ask about Melania's participation because nobody has spoken about it or focused on it or seen it. Will, when there is the downfall of Trump, which we know is coming, what happens to her and will she ever face charges?
No, She somehow is safely placed in Russia.
Ah, is that where she goes?
Yes. You mentioned that she's in Switzerland, but the reality is there's quite a strong bond between Switzerland and Russia and several other countries that are very authoritarian. There's like a network, you understand that. And so
Mhm.
she'll be protected, but she's not being protected by Donald Trump, which you can imagine isn't ever a possibility,
Right.
you know. But she won't be murdered. Many will be murdered that way, and she won't.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
She's a very cold-hearted woman. Do you know this?
Yes. I think it's
We say
easy to
that only
see.
because it's hard for her to feel the threat. It's hard for her to feel what's happening to other people.
Yeah.
For that, you can have compassion, but
Mm. Well, fascinating. Like I said, we haven't spoken about her before, terribly too
mm.
much.
Have you noticed she's really surreptitious?
Yes,
Mm.
absolutely. Absolutely. I've always been very suspect of that.
Mhm.
Very. So, MIRICRIS, I
And she
know.
stays away from her husband. Have you noticed that?
And wears big hats with a wide brim so he can't come in and kiss her.
And dresses like Jackie Kennedy a lot of the time.
Oh, just, anyways. Mary Chris, I think we're all waiting for the end of the downfall of the regime, the end of this nonsense. We know, many of us know it's coming. It's going to change. It just can't
Mhm.
come fast enough as the damage is being done. And I am watching a lot of news outlets. It's fascinating when people ask the question, why is he doing this? So let's go to the tariffs. He's now just breaking news. He's now just in 75 countries has put a hold on the tariffs for 90 days. The guy,
Oh, good.
well, the guy plays such games, and all the while, we have tariffs in China that are well over 100%. This is this is such a game. What is the end game? Okay, let's talk about this because not many people are covering this. What is going on in his head? Why is he doing all this with tariffs?
It's world control. It's simple. He wants to be the king of the world. You understand that?
Mhm.
And he has many, many countries afraid right now.
Yeah.
But we see something wonderful. We spoke of it at the very beginning, which is there's going to be, and we suggest that there's going to be kind of a murderous burp coming up. There's a very volatile, uh, I would say, exchange of ideas, but it's much more violent than that coming up. And right after that, it looks like it's housed in America and some in Eastern Europe, but it's literally very volatile and vicious skirmish. And that skirmish is going to stop this behavior. The threats on his life are huge, and they're huge, and some of them are undercurrents, and it gets very, very vicious for a while, probably in June. And at the end of that, you watch the pieces of social justice streaming around this planet. Many things will change because the appearance of the nuggets or the knots of collusion is going to make many people go, oh my God. And people are going to, and you're already seeing this, people are going to associate one to the other from many different countries around the world. And that's where you find the huge evolution of humanity around the planet. Now, it won't be
Mhm.
simple, Lori, but it will be very, very undulating, you see, and it will continue to undulate around amongst the species. And it's also meeting nose to nose with an evolutionary drive coming up in humanity, and which we have spoken of before, which is only taking about a third of the population. But it doesn't matter. There's this pulse of evolution coming up to meet this terrible fracas that's coming up. And you'll see wars coming up amongst many, like we say, El Salvador will have its own version of a war against America, and so on, because a lot of what America's accusing it of doing is trashing a great deal of their population. You understand? So it's now the
Mhm.
evil place,
Mhm.
and people don't want that. But
Mhm.
most people in these small countries that are kind of victimized don't really feel very powerful, or you're going to see a change in that. The power is going to start to rise in and amongst
Mhm.
small groups of people. Do you
Yeah.
understand what we're saying?
Yeah, because I think in the reformulation of the world order that he's creating, a part of it is, excuse me, I have a cold. Part of it
Bless
is
you. Bless you.
part of it is he's creating consortiums of other countries. For instance, Vietnam, Laos, these huge uh, these huge tariffs, 46% on Vietnam. I
Mhm.
mean, and now I think China is now starting to want to reach out and work with some of these smaller countries.
But what's really interesting, Lori, if you look at it as pressure, pressure on people all over the world, there's two kinds of pressure. One is resisting and holding back, and one is saying, "Nuh-uh, you're not doing this to us."
Mhm.
And they're coming up. People are very smart. Apparently, India's got a huge statement in this as well. People are standing up and going, we're formulating, strengthening bonds now, and you're not going to stop us.
Right.
And you'll love that, Lori. We could see you grinning and going, look at that.
Abs-
That doesn't mean there isn't a lot of bloodshed before that. You understand?
yeah,
But
absolutely.
also the iconoclasm has reached an all-time high, where people who thought they could count on the American reality and freedom and all that are going, oh, I see what they're doing, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, it really, it's not just power over the world. I mean, he really, it's weird when you get inside his head, he really does want to take America down.
Oh, he does. But he
What?
wants to have the whole world.
Yeah.
And that is really, if you consider it, uh, it's a madness, is it not?
Yes. It's a sickness. And
Oh,
may this be finished soon. May we pray in the disappearing, right? The undoing, as we've just spoken about before. We
well,
need
we're seeing you're gonna get your prayers answered in dribs and drabs throughout May.
to.
And by June, there's some kind of now remember that as we speak like this, there is sometimes a blessed amelioration of whatever the tensions are. You know that. So we can be changing outcomes even as we speak or think right now. But
Okay.
currently, it appears to us that the amount of venom that is building up is going to create a very bloody connection in June.
Wow.
Very bloody. And you could say, I don't want that. But the good thing is it's popping a terrible poison uh, blister. You understand?
Yeah.
And the poison is in the accruing of hidden vengeance, that kind of thing. And when that pops up and the fighting starts, you'll notice that even some masterful financial leaders and so on become humbled.
Yeah.
It's as if the spirit is imposing into or infusing the changes in the revolution. You understand? And a lot of it's
Mm.
going to just transform things, but it's
Yeah.
pretty ugly for a while.
And we have a situation. Elon is leaving. Is that right? Pretty soon.
Yes. Thank you.
And what the hell? Okay.
Now, his problem right now, one moment, please, he is blaming Trump entirely.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
people will buy into that, you know.
Ah. Yeah, there's that's something I wanted to look at. What is occurring between them and where's that going?
Well, one thing about Elon, he's smarter than Trump. Do you realize that?
Okay.
So the reason just a moment, the reason we said that he is more, Mr. Trump is very, very manipulative, and you know that. Elon has much more detailed kind of manipulative power. So what's going to happen? The hatred is developing very quickly between the two of them.
Mhm.
And one of the reasons for that is not being able to grab hold of power the way they want to. Elon is losing his iconic mastery. You understand that people are not tolerating that anymore. Not so
Okay.
true. Some people are tolerating it, but mostly they're not. Go
So
ahead.
as Elon leaves, what has he accomplished?
He's created a broader thought process in certain technology, much greater in some people who are going to be whipperty snip producers of technological wonders. Okay, so he has incentivized, is that the right word? He's incentivized brilliant inventors to create quickly beyond and not to play the game that it takes a long time. Do you understand? He's
Yeah,
really
but I sorry, I wasn't clear. What I mean is as he leaves, what did he ex what I mean, when you look at this, what did he do exactly inside Doge and the US government? What was that all about, Alfie?
he was, you know this, he was trying to clean, in quotes, clean it out. He doesn't think that the government needs to run the way it did.
But did he what I'm trying to get to is did he siphon money for himself? Did he get additional contracts? What's going to
He
finally
did
come
both
out?
of those things, both of those. He has made a fortune on the destruction of America.
And will he be held accountable?
Yes, but it's going to take a while, and you know why.
Yeah.
Partly because the disruption in May and June are going to make it a little harder for the higher consciousness political forces in America to really make sense of it. But there are people chasing him down right now.
And MIRICRIS, you've often seen him in prison, at least for
Yes.
some period of time.
Hmm.
Does that still hold weight?
Yes, it does.
It's
But he
fantastic.
probably won't be in prison very long.
Hmm.
We're not exactly sure why at this time, but we see that there's a time coming where there's no question he's in jail. And we like that for him because he needs to know that he's not the most powerful thing in the universe, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
He's not a
Well,
nice man. And we say that other people need to listen to this part. He's not a nice man because he doesn't have ethical checks and balances in there. He has a deep-seated anger. And of course, he was raised by a Nazi and all that stuff. But he has a deep-seated anger about people's needs and about having to give in to what people need. He doesn't have a sense of he doesn't have a consciousness. He doesn't have shame. He doesn't have the kind of things that keep you and I straight. Do you understand?
right,
He
right,
just
right, right.
doesn't have it.
All right. Well, very good. And on a high note, I think to say of
One
why.
more thing we want to say as he goes through his things, his children, you need to scoop those up in your envisioning. They need somehow to be buffered against what their dad is like.
Mm,
They're a little lost. You understand?
yeah.
So we don't want them to come out of the nest ready to do more of what their dad does, you see?
Well,
Okay.
it seems Vivian is in contrast and is willing to rise up and be very vocal against her father, knowing
Yes.
she's not going to inherit a dime, but that she still is with her mother. So,
Hmm.
anyways, what I wanted to say on the avoir Elon, which is and the big FU with the Supreme Court um, judge win in Wisconsin. After he put 20 million into that race, what a major FU that was by the public voting. We don't, your money can't buy the election. And this was huge. This
This
was
is huge.
huge.
This maintains a hugeness, you see. It's still
Yes.
huge.
Oh, we feel it on the heels of Cory Booker's speech and now the march. There's one, two, three, four, five. It's like boom, 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 boom. We just got to keep going. So,
And you realize very clearly, Lori, as many Americans have to, realize that we have to keep loud.
yeah.
We have to keep going and don't get eclipsed. Have your mind eclipsed by what looks like a good turnout. No. Mm-mm.
And may
No.
may I remind everybody that it's really important to have humor. We
Hmm.
must have humor during this period also. There's so many great protest signs. And just watch Stephen Colbert at night.
Hmm.
I mean, it's great commentary. I laugh out loud. Turn on a comedy show. I mean, we have to have that balance in our lives.
And the comedy is very carefully aligned with the cutting edge of
Yeah,
change. Yeah.
yeah.
Hmm.
All right,
Wonderful.
MIRICRIS. Anything else? Because I'm losing light on my side. Look at me. I'm woo.
You
Is it?
have some on the inside, though.
Yes, thank
We
you.
we are very, very, very pleased to be attuning to everyone right now where the changes are so big, and remind yourself that there's a possibility of a worldwide connection over consciousness. It's going to be more vital and have its own beautiful pulse, and you're a part of it. So thank you.
Great. Thank you so much. That was beautiful.
Thank you, Lori.
Bye, everybody. We'll be back.